Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Quiz Analysis for IAS Prelims 2025. It is 28th January today, and in this video we are going to solve some important questions which are very much relevant for your preparation if you are preparing for UPSC Prelims 2025 or you are preparing for UPSC 2026. This video is going to be very much important for you. Before we'll start solving these questions, I would like to give the brief introduction about this initiative so that if you are new to our channel, you will get more connected with us. Basically in this video, we'll try to discuss different types of questions and we will derive these questions from different sources. So depending upon the sources of these questions, we can divide our discussion into three different parts. So in the first part of our discussion, we will discuss questions with respect to the current affairs. What we will do, we'll take up the most important articles from the newspapers. We'll try to break them down into the simplest language possible, and we'll try to derive the possible prelims questions which can be asked in the exam from those particular articles, so that it will give the idea which part of the newspaper is important for you, what should be your approach when you are reading that news article, and how you can expect a question from that particular article. This is what we will understand in this part of our discussion. After solving questions with respect to current affairs, we will shift our approach to the another part of our discussion where we will solve questions from the static portion. As you know, if you would had watched my videos, we are discussing every day a static topic here, and we started it with Indian polity. We are going in a very discreet way, and right now we had reached till the office of the president. So today we will discuss a topic from the office of the president with respect to Indian constitution, and we will derive a possible prelims question from that particular topic so that it will give the proper idea how the questions can be asked from those topics. After discussing questions with respect to current affairs and the static part, we will shift our approach to the last part of our discussion where we will discuss a previous year question. To me, this is the most important part for your preparation right now because we are edging towards our examinations. As we know on the 25th of May, our exams would be there. So for you to better understand how the paper would come, how the paper would look, this part would be very much important for you to understand the vocabulary of UPSC examiners, what the vocabulary they use, what are the different trends they use, and also to understand how we can solve different types of questions if we don't have the proper knowledge. So that we will try to understand in this part, and also we'll try to understand how we can implement this knowledge which we will get from this video or from the previous year questions, how we can implement that knowledge in the upcoming exam. So this is what in nutshell we are going to do in this video. Now before we will start solving these questions, I would like to request you one important thing which I believe if you will follow, it is going to help you in many ways. As your exams are as you are left with only few months for your examination, when your exams will be very much near, I'm talking about the month of May, when you are left with only few days. So at that time you would want to revise everything. You would want to revise current affairs, you would want to revise static part, you would want to go through the previous year questions, and many of you would not had yet started the preparation for CSET. So it would be very much difficult for you to cover all this within those 25 days. So what will you do? Your anxiety would peak. You would want to go through everything. This is the human tendency. So the time won't permit you to do that. But if you have these questions with you, you would just revise these questions. These questions would definitely connect you with all this what we are going to discuss here, with current affairs, with static part, with previous year questions, and it is going to boost your confidence before entering the exam hall. And trust me, if you are confident enough, it is the most important thing which you would want to have in the examination hall. So, and also as we discussed what are our sources, there are many chances that questions can coincide in the exam. So with this, let's start our discussion. Before we will start, please do subscribe the channel. When you subscribe our channel, it helps us grow to reach the other people. It motivates us to work more hard on these videos. And also please do hit the like button if you like the video. Do share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from this initiative. Now without any delay, let's have a look at the first question which we have to discuss today. As here on the screen you can see, the question is about the carbon border adjustment mechanism, as it has been introduced by European Union, and they are going to introduce it from 2026. So what is the issue here? Why we are discussing this? Even though if you would have read today's newspaper or you would have watched any news analysis on YouTube, you would have not found out any direct article on that. So why we are discussing this question? Because there was a discussion over it in the article. Basically, the article talked about as we are edging towards the framing of our union budget for this financial year. So in this article, the author mentioned that there is a need for the policy framers when they are going to frame the budget. They have to look into the climate plans also in it. So they have to take care of the climate action. How where we can reduce the how we can reduce the carbon emissions. With our policies, the money we are going to provide for different policies, we have to keep check on the climate actions also. As the heading of the article suggested, that union budget as a turning point for climate action. So we are heading towards our union budget, so we have to take care of the climate action also at the same time. So with respect to this, what does it mean? Right now the world is changing. The world has changed. The world is realizing the importance of climate change. Even though there are countries, for example the USA right now, as they are turning blind eye towards the climate change. But one thing we have to understand, that if the impact of the climate change would be felt anywhere, it would be felt in the south countries. It would be felt into the in the underdeveloped or developing countries. So we have to take the precautions with respect to that. So with respect to that, the author here suggests that when we are going to frame our budget, the policymaker should take care of these climate action at the same time. There should be proper budget for that. So with respect to that, if we analyze what we had done so far, what our government has done so far, if you would have read last year's we can say last year's budget, you would have heard about PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. You would have heard about PM Surya Ghar Surya PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Muft Bijli Yojana. So what was the main purpose of this scheme? That we will install rooftop solar panels, and we will try to convert the renewable energy, which is the solar energy, into the electricity, and will reduce our dependence on the thermal power plants. On the thermal power plants, usually which are mostly dependent on fossil fuels. So this was the main focus. But if we look at the implementation of the scheme, only 60, about the implementation of the scheme, 1.45 crore people had registered for this. 1.45 crore people had registered for this, but unfortunately the benefit of the scheme, it was only shared with the 6.34 lakh people. So this is how poorly we are implementing that. What does it show? It shows that even though we have these highly sophisticated schemes in our mind, we have those policies in our mind, we are trying to achieve that, but where we lack, it is the finances where we lack. So here the author here in nutshell, what he is trying to say, that if we bring these schemes, we have to give the finances to them so that we can actually achieve this actually achieve this target. And also we had different we had uh, we had different targets. For example, total renewable energy installed capacity should be 500 gigawatt for till 2030. It should be till 2030. The total renewable energy should be 500 gigawatt. But is it so? Are we going towards that? Are we in any position to achieve that? That is totally no. Right now, the way we are moving towards it, we are not able to achieve this. And what is the reason for that? The reason is the budgets. The allocation of budget is the huge factor in this. So with respect to this also, why we had brought this question, the carbon border adjustment mechanism of EU. In this EU, European Union, what they are going to do, they are going to have the higher tariffs for those companies who are not following the carbon emission norms. So what it can, if this comes in the picture, if this carbon border adjustment mechanism comes into the picture, it will definitely discourage the domestic industries of our countries who do not, who it will discourage our domestic industries, especially MSMEs, of our country, as they don't give much attention to the carbon emissions. So in this way, here the author says that the government should take the initiative to provide the proper budgeting to these MSMEs, so that they can cope up with all these issues which the carbon border adjustment mechanism is going to bring them. So this is in nutshell about this article, and further the author suggested that how we can achieve these, how we can go forward in this year's budget. For example, we can go for the circular economy, we can go for putting the insurance schemes on, schemes on green finances. And at strive he discussed various aspects, but the main purpose, the main reason, what is needed right now, the gist of this article is that government for this year's budget, it is going to be a very, the budget, this year's budget is going to be a very huge if it would be directed towards the climate action. So with this, I hope you had got the basic idea why we had brought this question. Now let's try to solve this question and get the proper idea about the carbon border adjustment mechanism. As here the question says, which of the following statements regarding the carbon border adjustment mechanism are true? The first statement, CBAM aims to prevent carbon leakage by imposing a carbon tax on imports from the countries with weaker climate policies. 100% correct. This is the main motive. Second statement, the European Union is the first major economy to implement a comprehensive CBAM. 100% correct. Nothing wrong with this statement either. Then the third statement, it says CBAM is primarily intended to discourage domestic industries from relocating to countries with less stringent environmental regulations. Even though it can lead to this, but this is not the primary purpose of the CBAM, so this statement becomes incorrect. But this is the consequence of carbon border adjustment mechanism, but it is not the primary focus. What is the primary focus? Its primary focus is to prevent carbon leakages by imposing a carbon tax on imports from countries with weaker climate policies. So with respect to this question, what are the correct statements? Correct statements are statement 1 and statement 2 only. So with respect to this question, the correct option would be option B. So with this, I hope you had understood the article, you had understood the gist of the article and also the questions. With this, I would like to take your permission to move to the next slide. Here the question is with respect to the Samudra Shakti. Why, you can see here on the screen the exercise Samudra Shakti. Why we had brought this question, recently you would have heard, on 26th January, on our Republic Day, the chief guest was, who was our chief guest? It was the Indonesian president. So we had a separate discussion over this. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. I had my fellow colleague with me, with whom we discussed about it. What does it signify? As it is very much significant for this year that Indonesia is going to be the prime focus. The ASEAN countries are going to be the prime focus. The South East Asia is going to be the prime focus. So this area is going to be the prime focus. So with respect to this, with respect to this, we saw today that in today's discussion, in today's newspaper, we saw that the delegates from the Indonesia, from the Indonesian Navy, they had visited, they visited BrahMos office in Delhi. The delegations from Indonesian Navy, they had visited BrahMos office in New Delhi. So with respect to that, it shows that how we are moving forward. It shows that as we had the with respect to BrahMos missiles, we already had we are already doing business with the Philippines, and Indonesia is going to be the another country from Southeast Asia that Indonesia is going to be the other country with whom we will transfer this technology. We will transfer these weapons. So with this, as there are discussions over it, and very soon we are going to complete those. So this is why we had brought this question here. It shows, the purpose of this question was to show you what was the significance, as the president of Indonesia was the chief guest on the Republic Day parade, and also, how we signed different MOUs. Majorly we signed 5 MOUs with the Indonesian president on our Republic Day. 5 MOUs related to health and security and all that. We signed 5 MOUs, memorandum of understandings with the Indonesian president. And also today naval delegation from Indonesia, they had visited BrahMos office in Delhi. So with respect to this, we need to have the proper idea about what are the bilateral exercises which we usually do. UPSC has this tendency to ask such questions. So with respect to this, we had brought this question here. Let's solve this question and get what it is about. Here the exercise Samudra Shakti is a bilateral naval exercise between India and which of the following countries? It is Indonesia. So this much you need to know. In the last year's prelims also you saw that there was a question about the bilateral exercise which was between India and Sri Lanka. So such questions do come in the exam. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option C. So with this, I hope you had understood the article, why it is in news. We had done a huge discussion over it. You can see that on our YouTube channel also. And for you, we had given the basic idea about it. So with this, let's move to the another question and see what we had brought on the another screen. Here the question is with respect to the positive feedback loop. So this is very much interesting topic which I want to discuss with you guys about this positive feedback loop. So we can understand this through this question also, what this positive feedback loop is, what it is about, and why we had brought this question. We had brought this question here. It is all because of the exit of the US from the climate plans, exit of the US from the climate pacts, as we had seen from the, there was basically the topic with respect to the, there was discussion with respect to the US's exit from the climate pacts from 2001 onwards, how they exited from Kyoto Protocol, and when in 2017, Donald Trump, he tried to exit from the Paris Agreement. But typically it is very much difficult to exit from the Paris Agreement because it would take 4 years to do so. But this year, when he was re-elected again, he made an executive order that they are not going to be in the Paris Agreement. So this article basically discussed about the impact of US presidents US presidents removal exiting from these climate pacts. We had discussed those impacts, how it can lead, how as US is the biggest contributor to global emissions, it can further increase the emissions, and also how the developed countries, they would look at the US, their actions, and they would also think that if US can do it, we can also do it. And also we discussed about how the how the differentiated action, common but differentiated action, can be impacted by this, how the developed countries would stop funding the developing countries or underdeveloped countries, and in nutshell how it can how it can lead to the increase of the global warming. But to my knowledge, there was a mention about the positive feedback loop which caught my eyes. Even though we had discussed it many times now from the last 1 week itself, from last 1 or 2 weeks itself, to be more precise, but this topic we did not discuss it. So through this question we will understand what this positive feedback loop is, what does it contribute to. So let's solve this question and get the idea about the positive feedback loop, what does it contribute to. So here the question says, which of the following scenarios best exemplifies a positive feedback loop contributing to the accelerated climate change. So what does it show? For example, it shows the cascading effect of the global warming. For example, there is the melting of the snow. For there is a snow in the Antarctica. Because of the global warming, there is the melting of the snow. When there is melting of the snow, usually what happens when there is snow, about the snow, we know that its albedo is too high. In simpler terms, in layman's language, we understand that it can reflect more light, and because of that it leads to the cooling of the planet. When it is capped with the snow, it can reflect more light. But what happens when the snow starts melting? When snow starts melting, the albedo and this particular area, it gets exposed with the soil of that particular region. When it gets exposed with the soil of that particular region, we know that soil has lower albedo than the snow, and what it leads to, it leads to more absorption of sunlight. When there is more absorption of sunlight, it leads to more, what does it lead to? It leads to more global warming, more warming, and when it is more warming, further melting of the snow, further absorption and further warming. So it is a cascading effect. So once it starts, it does not end. That's how it is related to. This is what positive feedback loop is about. That once the snow starts melting, it leads to the lowering of the albedo. When the albedo is getting lowered, it further starts warming, it further starts absorbing the sunlight, and it further warms. So this is all about the positive feedback loop. That's, I hope you had understood it through this example. So let's try to understand and let's try to solve this question here. The first statement says increased cloud cover reflecting more solar radiations back into space, leading to a decrease in global temperature. Totally incorrect. Second statement, enhanced plant growth due to higher atmospheric CO2 concentrations, resulting in greater sequestration and a reduction in greenhouse gases. Totally incorrect. It is not about that, even though the positive feedback loop may seem positive, but it is not positive at all. Then the third, it says melting of Arctic sea ice, 100% correct, leading to a decrease in surface albedo, 100% correct, causing increased absorption of solar radiations and further warming, 100% correct. This is what we understood. Melting of sea ice, Arctic sea ice, leading to decrease in surface albedo and causing increased absorption of solar radiations and further warming. This is the cascading effect. This is the solar positive feedback loop. This is what it contributes to. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is statement C. Why we discussed this question? Because of the exit of the US from the climate pacts, especially the Paris Agreement, and it showed how it can impact the world, how global warming can increase, as we had already breached 1.5 mark, how it can further impact the world. And this was the concept which was basically discussed, and this is what I wanted to discuss with you guys. So with this, let's move to the another question and try to solve that. Here the question is with respect to Manasarovar Yatra. Why we had brought this question here? Because today there was a interesting news with respect to India and China. As you know, we saw that the relationship between India and China, relationship between India and China started to improve from October 2024 itself. You know how things started. With respect to that, India and China, they are likely to resume the direct flights. Now there was a news that India and China are likely to resume direct flights. So with respect to that, also this Manasarovar Yatra, it was done between the two countries involved, and it was stopped after the Galwan attacks basically, and now the governments had decided to resume it. So through this question, we will understand what this Manasarovar Yatra is about, how it is important. This Manasarovar Yatra, it is very much important for Hindus and Buddhists in this region of the world. It is a pilgrimage. It leads to a pilgrimage site there. So it is very much important for Hindus and Buddhists living in India or in China or in the Tibet region. So let's understand a little bit about Manasarovar Yatra, which can be important for your exam. So here the question says, first, regarding the Manasarovar Yatra, consider the following statements. First statement, the Yatra is primarily undertaken by the road through Lhasa. 100% correct. You need an air connection till Lhasa, then you will go through the road. So 100% correct. As we can see now, these direct flights had resumed. Now there would be a direct connection between the Lhasa and the India, and further it is done through the road. So with respect to this question, the first statement is correct. Second statement, the Sino-Indian agreement on the Yatra route is a significant factor in its successful conduct. 100% correct. Third, the Yatra is organized by the Government of India through the Ministry of External Affairs. It is the Ministry of External Affairs which is associated from the Indian side. So with respect to this question, all the three statements are correct, which is option 1, option 2, and option 3, which is option D. So with this, I hope you had understood this Manasarovar Yatra, why it is important, because it is India and China, they are resuming it again, and also why it was basically in news, because now India and China are going to resume the direct flights between the two countries, as they were not happening because of the tensions between the two countries. So it is going to it is going to have the great impact it is going to impact our relations in a better way, as you know, now the students would be, it would be very much easy for Indian students to go to China. Earlier they have to go to different countries then reach China. Now they can directly go to China, and also visas would be very much available for the people in China also. So with this, I hope you had understood the question. Now let's move to the another question and try to solve that. Here the question is with respect to Guillain-Barré syndrome. Why it is in news? Because you know, in Maharashtra many cases of this syndrome have been found. About this Guillain-Barré syndrome, we need to know through this question. It is a neurological disorder, and it is characterized by autoimmune attack on the peripheral nervous system. So this is one of the concern in Maharashtra right now, as it is on rise. How it is, you know, which are the, how it you know, how it is impacted, you know, how it is separate. You know, it's the separate of this disease is the accurate cause for the separate of this disease is not known, but you know, there are some bacteria that can cause this. For example, Zika virus or gastro uh, gastroenteritis poisoning can also be the lead for this, spread of this disease. And it is basically, you know, if you are if people are going for the unhygienic food, that is the major cause in for the spread of this disease. You know, this disease can be fatal. It impacts the peripheral nervous system. It can you know, it can impact the breathing pattern of the person. It can impact the response of the person, and it is the immune system which attacks the peripheral nervous system. You know, this how dangerous it is. So with respect to this disease, it is an autoimmune attack on the peripheral nervous system. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would be option 4, which is autoimmune attack on the peripheral nervous system. So with this, let's move to the, I think this is the last question from the current affairs part. Now let's see what we had brought on the another here. Sorry, we had one more question from the current affairs part, as it is in Jammu and Kashmir, the Chalaikalan, the harsh 40 days of the harsh winter is going on. So you need to know about this. So let's understand July Kalan through this question. Here the question says, with reference to July Kalan, which of the following statements is are correct? First statement, it is a 40-day period of harsh winter in Kashmir beginning around December 21st, 100% correct. Second statement, during this period the temperature drops significantly, leading to freezing of water bodies and heavy snowfall in the higher reaches, 100% correct. It is followed by Chilai Khurd and Chilai Bacha, which are progressively less severe periods of cold, 100% correct. So it is associated with the Jammu, with Kashmir region only, during this period you will see Kashmiri people wearing herons, and you will see, if you can search on the internet, they are holding the fire pots in their hand to warm their body. So this is very harsh time period, harsh 40-day period, harsh winter period in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Kashmir region. So this is very much important. You know, its mention was in the newspaper, there was a picture of the person holding the fire pot, so it becomes important for you guys to so understand this, what this Telekalan is about. So with respect to this question, which are the correct statements? Statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3, or the 3 statements are correct. So with this, I hope you had understood all the current affairs which we had discussed today. Now let's move to the another part of our discussion, where we will discuss few we will discuss a static topic. You know, as currently, you know, we are discussing the president of India. You know, we discussed the president of India. We discussed how he is the ceremonial head, how he resembles the monarch of Britain. We saw that, but the election is different in monarch. Here, monarch is hereditary post, but here it is indirectly elected. We also discussed about the electoral college with respect to the president. We discussed the impeachment of the president too. We discussed about the oath of the president. We discussed how he enjoys different immunities to the president. We discussed various concepts related to president. Now today, as we are moving further with respect to the office of the president, here we have to discuss, you know, here we have to discuss how president and the Union Council of Ministers, they are related. Basically, this is basically mentioned in Article 74, how the president appoints the PM and other ministers on the advice of the president. You know, how the advice, how how the advice of the council of ministers is binding on the president. Earlier it was not very much clear, but through the 42nd amendment act it was made very much clear that he has to bind in any situation the advice of the president. Further, through 44th amendment act, it was also added that he can send it back for the review. Then if the parliament sends, if the council of ministers sends it back to him, then he has to accept. So some discretion was given to him. So with through this question we will understand this relationship, and we will move forward. Here the question says, with reference to the relationship between the President of India and the Union Council of Ministers, consider the following statements. First statement: the President appoints the Prime Minister and other ministers on the advice of the PM. 100% correct. He appoints the Prime Minister, and on the advice of the PM he appoints the another ministers. Then the second statement, it says, this statement is 100% correct. Second statement: the Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the President of for all its action. Totally incorrect. This is the catch here. It is responsible for the, they are responsible to the Lok Sabha, not the President. So this statement is incorrect. Third statement: the President can ask the Council of Ministers to reconsider its advice once, but if the same advice is tendered again, the President is bound by it. 100% correct. It was done through the 44th Amendment Act. Then the fourth statement: all executive actions of the government of India are taken in the name of the president. 100% correct. So this is the nutshell of the relationship between the president and the Union Council of Ministers, how it is done. So with respect to this, what are the correct statements? Correct statements are statement 1, statement 3, and statement 4. With this, I hope you had understood a little bit about the relationship between President and Union Council of Ministers. So with this, we complete today's static question also. Now let's move to the last part of our discussion, where we will try to solve the previous year question. Here, today's previous year question, it is from the physical geography. Geography. This question was asked basically in 2005. So let's see what was the question about. It says, in which of the following oceans diamantite trench is situated? So we have to find out about the diamantite trench. Why it was, this question was asked, because there was a discussion. Definitely there would have been the discussion about the diamantite trench. So let's understand where it is located. Is it located in Indian Ocean? No. Is it located in Atlantic Ocean? No. Is it located in Indian Ocean? 100% correct. It is located in Indian Ocean, in the southeast part, basically in the southeast part of the east part of the Indian Ocean. So here I would like to ask you guys to search on the map where it is located. Do this little homework so that you will get more aware of it. When such questions are asked, when these factual questions are asked in the exam, here you need to have the proper knowledge. If you don't have the proper knowledge, you can't do anything. You will eventually mark the question incorrect. So for these questions, please don't try to be over smart. If you know the answer, then apply, attempt it. If you don't know the answer, just keep it there. Don't get unnecessary negative marks. But if these questions are conceptual based, which we will see in the upcoming classes, there you can implement the techniques which we follow. For example, elimination methods can be used. We can use extreme methods, extreme option methods. Even in the options, we can see the opposite option methods. For example, which are contradicting method, we can use contradicting methods. So there are various methods through which we can solve the questions in the exam. We will see those methods in upcoming classes too. So with this, what is the correct answer to this question? It is the Indian Ocean, where this diamantite trench is located. So with this, we complete today's discussion. I hope you would have liked the video. I hope you would share it with your friends, and I definitely hope you would subscribe the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.